Okay. Hello. Okay, you're welcome, Mark. How are you? Can you
Very
hear
good,
me?
Steph. I can hear you loud
Fun,
and clear. Can you hear me?
fun. Yes, I can hear you very clearly.
I was expecting to
Fun.
hear about jollof rice and favourite foods.
Oh, you've been part of the discussion.
Oh,
Oh,
I've been listening with
well,
intent. It's all been
with
kind of
intent.
toast and egg and chips at the moment, but I'm in Ghana at the moment, so we've been having coconut for breakfast, plantain, and jollof rice, and so I'm
Nice.
fired up for West Africa now. So.
What do you think about jollof rice? That's where we always have the contention.
Well, I'm in Ghana at the moment, so I'm not sure whether to say Ghanaian jollof rice is best or Nigerian jollof rice is best. But
Don't
as
go there. Don't go there, Mark. Don't go there, Mark. You need to come to
nobody
Nigeria to
can
taste
hear
the
me.
Nigerian jollof rice.
Exactly, I'll be there on Thursday. So,
Okay, fantastic. When after you've tasted it on Thursday, then you can give the feedback,
well, I can let you
right?
into a secret because nobody is listening in Ghana at the moment on behind me. So I prefer Nigerian jollof rice any day. So,
Oh yes, 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 because that's most likely going to be the Fourth World War if we go into contention about whose jollof rice is tastier. Ladies and gentlemen, make welcome Mark Brooks. I'll just quickly read your biography. Mark Brooks has been working as a leading educational consultant for more than 20 years and served on the senior leadership teams of major public schools such as Kingham Hill School and Rodian. I hope I got that correctly.
you did.
He has enjoyed working with families from across the world for many years and within West Africa for 15 years. He holds an MBA which is focused on investigating how parents choose an independent school sponsored by Independent Schools Council. Mm. He has been working as a leading educational consultant. Okay, I've said that part, beg your pardon. He holds an MBA, which is focused on, yes, said that part as well. He is a regular speaker at events, including those in the UK organized by the DBT to inspire other businesses, engage in exporting goods and services to new markets overseas. Ladies and gentlemen, mummies and daddies, Nigeria and diaspora, in this 10th edition of the LagosMums conference, please put your virtual hands together and make welcome Mark Brooks, who has attested that Nigerian jollof rice has no competition. Please put your virtual hands together and make welcome Mark Brooks this beautiful day. Yes,
Thanks very much.
yes, yes.
Thanks very much, Steph. And it's great to be joining you from West Africa. We flew in last night, so it is great to be
Wow.
enjoying the heat of West Africa, and also the welcome as well of West Africans too. And we're going to be coming to Nigeria in a few days' time, so we just can't wait. And the format for this session is about 45 minutes. And we have some guest speakers as well. We have 6 guests waiting in the wings to be let in as well. So, Tom Layton, would you like to introduce yourself, Tom Layton, and all the others for joining us?
Good morning, LagosMums. I hope you're well, and thank you for having us today. I'm Tom Layton. I'm the head of boarding here at Steyning Grammar School, a state boarding school in West Sussex.
Brilliant. Dave Watkin, introduce yourself.
Hello, Tom.
Guy, nice to see you. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, Mark, everybody. My name's Guy Ayling. I'm the headmaster and principal of the Mount Kelly Foundation, which is a school in a very beautiful part of the United Kingdom, in the county of Devon.
Brilliant. And Stephanie Barnes in the fabulous surroundings of Western Burt School. I'm glad you don't have your background on. We can actually see your real background that you are in. It looks like you're in a palace.
Thank you so much, Mark. Yes, my name is Steph Barnes. I'm the deputy head here at Western Burt School, a day and boarding school situated in the Cotswolds in Gloucestershire. And as Mark's alluded to, we reside in quite a spectacular heritage building. So thank you very much for having me.
Brilliant. Now, going to Dave Watkin, where are you dialing in from?
Hi, thanks, Mark. Sorry, they say never work with children and technology, and that probably includes me as well. So, Dave Watkin, assistant head at Culford School, just half an hour east of Cambridge, an hour and a half from London, and really excited to be joining all the families today. So, thanks for the great opportunity.
And Sarah's another person who's beaten the technology and has got a LagosMums background. So, whereabouts are you dialing in from?
Indeed, I'm dialing in from Truro High School for Girls down in Cornwall, beautiful part of the UK right down in the southwest. And we're in an award-winning school down there that's just for girls.
Brilliant. And we may have another colleague joining us who's actually overseas at the moment in Turkey, I think. So look forward to him joining us as well at some point. So this is an interactive fireside chat. I know it's not very appropriate to talk about firesides when we're blazing in 27 degrees heat, not just in England, but in West Africa as well. But this is very informal, interactive, fun, friendly, and we'll hope to learn a few things as well. Thanks very much for the introduction, Steph, as well. I've been working with Nigerian families for 15 years, and I found my vocation in life. 90% of my time is spent working with Nigerian families, even Christmas Day, WhatsApping each other, goodwill messages and catching up. In fact, I just had a message from a parent a few minutes ago who wanted to chat about their children, and I first started working with them in 2016. So we do keep in touch with our families. Once we place them in fantastic British boarding schools. In the summer, I had an update from their university results, and even had a message from one parent saying their daughter's got a new car. And we just build relationships with families, and it's wonderful. And I love Nigeria and love Nigerians. But why do I do this job? Why is it relevant to the topic today? Raising global citizens. Well, I went to boarding school in the UK myself, in Suffolk, in the east of England, and I learned two things. The main thing is I learned about the balance of academic excellence and music and sport, that the two go hand in hand, and I was very keen on the orchestra and choir and experience, and it was a Catholic school. And what I learned about is an education can give a real compass for life. And I know that the school that I went to was a Catholic school and still is. And its motto was work and keep to it. And it changed its motto later to through God or with God, work and keep to it, with a rough translation of Latin. And that's actually been my daily motto, which drives me every single day of my life. And it's why I do what I do and why I love what I do as well. And I don't do it for any other reason. And I get fantastic job satisfaction when parents get back to me, like dozens have over the last few days, saying, thank you so much for spending so much time with us and advising us to join the right UK boarding school. So that's a bit about me. That's enough about me, but just to say we're going to be in Lagos next weekend and some exciting events to meet you personally, but we're not going into too much detail about that because we want to hear a little bit more from the speakers. So Tom Layton, you're from Stennings Grammar School. Tell us a little bit, what's different about your school? And you just need to unmute yourself there.
Caught by the mute button. Thank you, Mark. I'm Tom from Stennings Grammar School. We're the only state boarding school represented today, I believe. So it's great to be with you. What's different about Stennings? Well, for a state boarding school, it has a real incredible heritage. So it's founded in 1614 as a Church of England school. However, nowadays we have a live order of nuns who live on one of our sites, as we acquired a local independent prep school, which is really quite interesting. So the Christian ethos is something I'll probably allude to. However, the boarding chaplain is West African. So faith is front and centre of what we do. And in terms of the journey that our students go on, they're very much supported by professionals in that area.
Brilliant. Well, that's a very short and relevant, punchy introduction. That's fantastic. And I'd love to meet your West African chaplain. He sounds a lot of fun, and his chapel services must be exciting. So,
quite explosive. Excellent.
Brilliant. And I'm looking forward to going to West African Church tomorrow, in fact. So, Guy, down in Mount Kelly in Devon, tell us a bit about your school. why it's different and what you do differently to other schools here.
Am I on mute as well? There's certainly one thing that I think makes us very different. That's the fact we've got 3 swimming pools, including a 50-metre pool. We've got an internationally renowned high-performance swimming programme. But I find other things that we do far more interesting than that. And with global citizenship and so on very much in mind, we're really heavily invested in the OECD framework for learning 2030. Which is an evolving learning framework designed at focusing on certain competencies to develop skills that we think the children will need when they enter the labour market around 2030. And it's about developing understanding of purpose amongst the pupils, but also amongst the staff, why we do certain things the way that we do them. So concentrating on specific competencies, knowledge, skills, attitudes and values and so on, but really drilling into those and trying to understand why certain skills will be important in the future. I'm sure some of my colleagues in other schools are doing exciting things like that, but we feel that this is absolutely going to be at the heart of our curriculum for the next decade.
Brilliant. And we spoke about that when we met up about 10, 15 days ago, and we look forward to drawing out a few kind of key learning points about that a bit later, because it's really kind of at the forefront of educational thinking at the moment. Stephanie Barnes from Western Burt, a little bit more about your school, of what makes it different, and go ahead.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, I think as I alluded to, we've got this wonderful heritage here at Western Burt, and we're very fortunate to sit in a space of 220 acres that actually is attached to the National Arboretum here, and that concept of nature and growth is what's inspired the ethos for us at school. So it's very much a school that's centred on the Christian faith, but with a global outlook at how we can grow our students through really, really bespoke programmes. As a school, you might be aware we've been on quite a journey in recent years, moving from an all-girl to a co-ed school, and actually we've maintained that really student-focused approach from when we were such a small school to now the kind of the thriving numbers that we have.
Good. And Sarah, what's different about your school?
So I think what's different about us is we are proudly different in that we're girls only, and that has liberated us to produce a curriculum that is entirely relevant for girls. We also have a church foundation. We were founded in 1880 by a dad who was a headmaster of a co-ed school who wanted to think differently for his daughters. And so we keep that at the centre of our school today. How can we think differently for our daughters? How can we provide the best opportunity for them to thrive? And one of the things that I suppose is different about us is that we're a car club. We're the only school in the country that's partnered with Motorsport UK, and we're a green power centre of excellence. So we develop and race cars, which the girls are actually doing at the moment at the international final. But also it's about being a little bit smaller. We're very much a family atmosphere, a family feeling community, and we're deliberately small so that all the girls can have access to every opportunity. Nobody is turned away from anything, from the dance show where 80% of the girls chose to be in it last year, to the green power engineering, which is not an elite team, just those that show up. And that access to opportunities is something that we keep very much at the heart of our school, because it's only when you try things that you discover new talents, and that's really important to us.
And it was great the other day when we were down in Cornwall to meet some of your talented motor racing team at a motor racing show, and it's very impressive. So welcome to Gareth. I know Gareth was on time, but there's technical problems this end in letting you in. I know you're always very punctual, so good to see you. Gareth, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what makes your school different? And then we'll come back to Dave Watkin, who's next.
Hi, thanks, Mark. Delighted to be on the webinar today, and thank you very much for the invitation, and thank you very much for allowing me to speak before Dave Watkin. Always an honour. I'm the director of Cardiff Sixth colleges in both Cardiff and Cambridge. I'm speaking to you at the moment from Antalya in Turkey. So I'm not sure all the connection problems were entirely at your end. There were some at my end as well. And I'm representing what is probably renowned to be the #1 academic school for A-levels in the United Kingdom, a school that's topped the Telegraph league tables consistently over the last 12 years. And we deliver highly aspirational education for students who want to move on to top courses, top universities for top careers. All the wonderful schools on here do absolutely everything, and similar to them, we have a strong pastoral and super curricular program as well, but we take great pride in our achievements of our students in getting themselves into the very best courses at the very best universities and going on to fantastic careers. There's much more about this, and I'm sure people can ask me questions and we can unpack it a little bit later through the webinar. But thank you, Mark, for the opportunity.
Thanks, Gareth, and well done for fitting us into a busy programme and getting the timings right. I know we're an hour away from Lagos time at the moment, and I had to keep reminding myself that it is an hour ahead. So, well done. Dave, final word from you, an introduction, and what makes Colford different?
To be pragmatic about it, a bit like Guy, we're the only school to have 6 indoor tennis courts, and that's been a really distinctive feature of what we've developed at the school. We're the only school to have an educational link with Tottenham Hotspur Premiership Football Club. But again, as Guy alluded to, that's not the stuff that really interests me particularly. And I think we've all got similarities as schools, but I think one of the things that is distinctive to any organisation is their values. And I think they're of really integral importance. So at Colford, flexible, innovative, dynamic and resilient. And thankfully, we established those values just before we hit a global pandemic, because every day, every minute, we had to exhibit those skills to be flexible, innovative, dynamic and resilient. And I think they are the core values we've got to live by. We've got to instill in our kids, because they're the things they'll take with them. And obviously, the education life of the school is fundamentally important. But when you are in the workplace, I've yet to hear anybody ask me what I did at A-level or my degree. What you have to do is exhibit qualities. You've got to exhibit values that inspire people, that engender trust. And I think those are the things that are fundamentally important and unique to any establishment. And the one word I will always try and integrate into any sort of presentation like this is kindness. We need to teach our kids to be kind to themselves. We need to teach them to be kind to each other, and we need to teach them to be kind to the environment we live in. And if we do that, we won't need many rules. Thanks.
That's very powerful, Dave. And I know we did a video recently, and lots of parents have really picked up on that word kindness. It's an important value, which leads us very neatly, thanks very much, Dave, to the second question for the day, really, which I'm going to ask Sarah, really. We've talked about we've hinted at the pandemic, and that's been kind of quite an upheaval in lots and lots of ways, but it also gave an opportunity to reassess how we do teaching and learning, how we prepare the next generation for 21st century, and jobs which haven't been invented yet and skills that haven't been invented yet. What are your values, and what are the values of the school that you hope that children leave with? We talk about kindness just now with Dave, but what are some of the values that Truro High School would prepare students to leave with? As we heard from me earlier about Compass for Life, what are the values that you want to ingrain and instill in them in your wonderful girls' school down in Cornwall?
Yeah, no, it's a really important question. And I think all schools have this at the heart of everything that they do. And so we'll all instill incredible values, whichever independent school you choose in the UK. But for us, things like a sense of ambition. And that doesn't mean just ambitious for yourself, but ambitious for the world, to be globally minded, to be problem solvers, to be critical thinkers, because it's only when we think outside of the box that we can solve problems that we don't know exist yet. It's only when you think outside of the box and you are being creative problem solvers that you can find cures for diseases. We also want them to be creative in their thinking. So creative doing is important to us. And that's why we have dance shows and a fantastic arts programme. but also creative in their approach to other academic areas and intellectual curiosity. We want our students to be lifelong learners. The statistics around young people dropping out of university because they can't lead their own learning are quite shocking. But actually, the students that come through our school and through, I'm sure, the schools here today, they don't drop out. In fact, they go in and they're leaders in their field because we've taught them how to research, how to be intellectually curious, how to really embrace learning and take it forward. And then our other core value that's really important is compassion. And that genuine compassion for those around them, for driving change in the world, for the earth and sustainability. And it's based on the Christian foundation of agape, the love of one's neighbour. And you love your neighbour whether you like them or not. We don't all have to get on, but actually mutual respect is something that we really, really, really want our girls to understand, to find the areas that they have in common, because there's more that unites us than divides us. So that genuine compassion for the world and one another. And off they go to thrive with these values instilled within them.
So the 4 C's, so if I remember them rightly, critical thinking, creativity, which is obviously very important, curiosity and compassion, another word for kindness, I guess, as well.
And don't forget community.
Community. Well, we can keep going on the C's. I'm sure Gareth will come up with a few more C's in a minute. So apart from Cardiff and Cambridge and all those things. So what was the last C you mentioned, Sarah? So I can make a note of that. That was brilliant.
It was community. Yeah.
Community, which brings us to the boarding school environment. Gareth, you don't have to use C's for this section, but what are some of the values that Cardiff instills in students? Because you have a very different approach to education and high achieving academically and in other ways as well. What's the key to success, and how do they maintain that academic drive and drive to excel when they leave Cardiff Sixth Form College?
So it's a really interesting question, Mark, and I think many people assume that all we do is teach A-levels because our grades are so good, but actually what we spend most of our time on is exactly what Sarah's just been talking about there, and our 4 C's would be creativity, collaboration, communication, and critical thinking. And actually most of the time we spend our time building skills and characters in young people, and when they do that, it lifts their positivity, it lifts their self-esteem, it lifts their sense of self-worth and their confidence, and by doing that they work harder. And guess what? When they're to steal Dave's word, when they're happy, they work even harder and they work even better. So by making sure that students are well balanced and that there's nuance in terms of their learning, then their grades just follow. It isn't rocket science. It isn't difficult. Make a happy child. Concentrate on their links with the outside world. Concentrate on their self appreciation, and then they will move forward. So the values are very strong and very driven. But what we would say here is that our value-driven education that we get is not it doesn't compromise their academic achievement as well. And it's the same thing for all of my colleagues on the call here. Nobody would say anything different. So it's a very interesting question that you asked there, in that we each of us have a headline that we put out there and say this is what we do really well. But the core of everything that we do is we look after children. British Boarding School has been doing this for 600 years, and guess what? It's really very good at it. And the most important thing I would say, and you'll have to forgive me because you've heard me say this many times, Mark, the most important thing about choosing a school for your child in terms of British Boarding School education is not about listening to me. It's not about hearing from all of our colleagues online. It's about knowing your child. Because there is no such thing really as a bad school in terms of education in the United Kingdom. What there is a bad fit between the child and the school. So making sure you get the fit right is what's really important. So get under the skin of the schools, what we do or what we say we do or what we like to do, but equally get under the skin of your child and know what that makes them thrive, not just survive, makes them thrive in education. And you know what? You have a great fit and your child will soar and be wonderful in the future that is unknown at the moment.
And that's a good chance for an advertising break to come to the UK Boarding Schools Week exhibition next weekend on Friday the 13th at the Wheatbaker Hotel from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, a VIP reception, which you're all invited to, every single one of you. Saturday boarding school exhibition from 11 till 4 on Saturday the 14th at the Wheatbaker again. And a new event called Lagos to London with advisors on wealth, immigration and relocation on Sunday the 15th from 1 o'clock until 3 o'clock. Thanks very much, Gareth. Over to Stephanie. What are your values? And I'd like to. I've got a value of yours, which I think you may mention, but I'll keep that to myself and see if you mention it or not.
Oh, it's like a real task now, Mark. Let's see if I can tick that box for you. No, just really to echo what Gareth and Sarah have already said here around the value of character-based education, which I think is something that's held very dear here in the UK, and why globally and education in the UK is so valued, because while our academics and academic performance is absolutely fundamental to development, it's the characters that these children leave us with and go on to the wider world with. And we all, I think, here feel that sense of responsibility to that. I mean, for us at Western Burt, really, pupils here, fundamentally it's confidence, but without arrogance. I'm going to throw a few C's in myself. Courage, I would say, alongside kindness, and a real sense of service that we are establishing here at Western Burt. Service to self, but also service to that wider community, because as global citizens, we've already established it's teaching our young people in order to take service of this world and take it forward.
Good. Now, you didn't use the phrase I was expecting you to.
Greenhouse, not a hot house?
It could be exactly that one. So what does that mean in the context of Western Burt and also your sixth form department and buildings as well?
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. It's a real favourite phrase of our head, Natasha Dangerfield, and rightly so. Essentially, it's been bred out of those links that I spoke about earlier with the Arboretum. We are surrounded by nature here, and we look out of our windows and we see it thriving, and that's really inspired, I think, that phrasing of us being a greenhouse and not a hot house, and really placing emphasis on that growth of the whole child and that whole person. And essentially that starts all the way down in our nursery from our 2-year-olds all the way up through to our 18-year-olds, and when they depart us at the end of sixth form here.
And all of the schools would say amen to that greenhouse, not a hot house.
Yeah, for sure.
There. So, good. Thanks, Stephanie. That's really fantastic. So moving on to Dave Watkin. I know we've done a video on values, which are really powerful. And you did a really powerful video, which was watched by about 2,000 people. So just recap some of the values of Culford that you mentioned, but why that's important as a school.
Comes Mark, I can't remember what I had for my breakfast, let alone what I said on a film 4 weeks ago. I mean, I don't want to be repetitive, Mark, really. I think there is that element of kindness, compassion, care for yourself, care for the individual. And I think it's about generating a sense of ease an individual has in themselves. I'm blessed to have a twin brother. And he once said of me, without me, Dave, you'd be boring. And he's probably right. And I think it's really important that actually there's nothing more engaging than somebody who is interested and interesting. And I think the quality of actually showing interest in other people and having a genuine care for that is such a powerful thing. And I think you can only really engage in that when you've got an ease and a comfort and a confidence in yourself. Because at that point, you've got that ease in yourself, and you actually have the appetite to listen and to hear and to be intrigued about what other people have got to say about the world, rather than sort of force your view on the planet. And I've done a lot of tours sort of since COVID, and I guess the essence of what I tell families is, number one, all of our schools, you have to have a sense of security, sense that you're safe, whether that's online in your physical environment. You have to be confident. And what I mean by confidence is prepared to give things a go. And when it doesn't work out, that doesn't, damage your sense of identity and worth. And that brings that ease that allows you to be interesting and interested. And the third and the most important thing for me, and as Gareth has, with his words of wisdom, has already said, is to be happy. And if our children are happy, then they will have the confidence and the sense of security to achieve amazing things. And they take that with them. I truly believe that the benefit and the blessing of an education, you don't really see it till the children are 23, 24, 25. And that will be the true test of the education and the values we've instilled in the pupils. And it'll be long after people have forgotten that their academic grades. So I don't know if I've encapsulated anything of what we said on the video, Mark, but it's something, I equally still feel very passionately about.
Yeah, I know you've said something new that I've never heard before, actually, which was very insightful. And I think it's because of the boarding school environment and the international environment of the boarding school environment. You get to know other students and you naturally become interested in them. Where you're from, what's the culture, you're understanding the mindset of a Chinese student or West African student or a Russian student. And generally that interest in others just goes with you for the rest of your life. And certainly that's what I would put my interest in others down to. And that's very insightful. I've never heard that before. So thanks, Dave, for prompting us on that. Guy, drawing from this OECD framework, you've had a real think about your values over the summer holidays and your insets for staff. What are the kind of new values that you're preparing students for the 21st century? Are they different to what you've heard already, or are there some new ones that are relevant to AI and computers and WhatsApp and things, social media, for example?
I think specifically AI and all of this technological stuff is just the latest sort of iteration of the challenges that we all face. And we have to deal with those challenges using a bank of skills and so on. And really that's probably what we're all engaged in our schools. And those skills are founded on values, which all of my colleagues are speaking very strongly about. And if I can pick up firstly on something Sarah talked about, the sort of classical notion of agape and love and so on. I talk to my staff a lot about how important love is in education, not just in teaching compassion between individuals, but also the neurological reality that the receptors in our brains fire 3 times more efficiently when we're in the presence of someone who loves us. So we need to love our pupils if we want them to learn. It's not just a love in itself as being a good thing, but actually a means to better learning and so on and so forth. And I know Dave will smile at this. I always mention my 3 sons, who are all very, very different and are in the school. Very, very different boys, but they have all benefited in their own ways because they're surrounded by members of staff who love them. I don't necessarily think our thinking on OECD and so on necessarily changes our values. I think it just throws into sharp focus how important those values are. I mean, for us, and I'm repeating ones that my colleagues have already mentioned: compassion, integrity, respect, courage, commitment, and humility are our values. I think the humility is particularly important. It's a Christian notion. I think it's not solely Christian, but it is a strongly Christian notion. Without humility, of course, we cannot collaborate. We cannot be collegial. I don't think we can be compassionate. We probably can't be courageous without humility, and so on and so forth. And with sort of Christian values in mind, I mean, I've always been inspired in my teaching career, which is, despite my youthful looks, I've been at it for almost 30 years. I've always been inspired by the passage in the scripture about the road to Emmaus, what happened there when Jesus unknowingly accompanied 2 disciples who were lost in the world because their world orientation had been blown apart by what had happened in Jerusalem. And he just walked with them unknowingly. And I believe that as teachers, we must walk with our children and inspire them through our guidance, not necessarily didactic guidance, but inspire them through our guidance for their hearts to burn with passion, as the hearts of those 2 disciples did on the road to Emmaus. So I think all of my thinking with OECD and skills, and if there was another C I was going to mention, it would be competencies, particularly transformative competencies. The ability to unpick problems and conflict resolution is something that is really central to what we're doing with the OECD. But we all come back to values, because the one thing we've got over AI at the moment is our ability to make moral decisions, and long may that last.
Brilliant, good. That's fantastic, Guy, and thanks for bringing in about the faith element as well. And I know it's very important in Nigeria, and we have a lot of Muslim viewers as well. And just to reassure families that we welcome Muslim families as well, and very well set up for that, as well as Christian families and those with no faith as well. So thanks for sharing that, Guy. That's very profound. Tom, we'd like to just hear about some of the values of Stenning Grammar School and how maybe your can impart some of those values as well.
Thank you, Mark. As Guy, I'd like to draw really on our Christian heritage first and foremost. Our values there come from, and perhaps we have see if someone could pop in the chat if they know their Bible, to live life in all its fullness and to flourish as God intended. For us, the key word there is flourish. So when we are in a time of crisis, we draw down on our Christian heritage. But how we do that nowadays and with students in 2023 is through flourish. A Christian vision of flourish is, I don't flourish if you don't flourish. So we have to be doing well ourselves, but we also need to be helping the person to each side of us. Flourish for us at Stenning means something different. It's based on character education. We are one of the very few schools in the UK with the Character Kite Mark Plus, based on years of research, which has shown that if we can get students to improve their character, and we do that through 8 particular character virtues, their progress and their academic learning will also improve. So it's really interesting and powerful. So we do that through language in lessons, through engagement through one-to-one devices, but also we report on that. So if a parent gets a report for the termly academic progress performance, they will also have a report from teachers about the character that their child is showing in that particular lesson, and the child themselves self-reports on how they think they're doing. So it's a really inclusive process. It's transparent, and we know that can help them. How else do we do it? Through our collective worship program and our chaplaincy team. And if I had, to build on one of the C's, perhaps it would be courageous. But what we inspire students to do is, and seek for students to become, is courageous advocates. And that's courageous advocates for change, to do good in the world, and to go forward and have faith, but with works. So how am I going to flourish myself, but how am I going to help others to flourish too?
So flourishing and courageous are some of the key points there as well. So thanks. That was really, really interesting. And everyone said something different but complementary as well. And just the whole point of today's session is for anyone to take away something of use from it, whether you're thinking about British boarding school, thinking about day school in Lagos or Abuja or anywhere else. What impact does the education of your child make on your child's future? And that's what the theme is about. And just to also advertise and mention that we are not just about recruiting students from Nigeria to the UK, and that's certainly not my heart and what I do. It's about partnerships, and we work a lot with schools on the ground. And I know the schools represented here, I think pretty much all of them have taken teachers from Nigeria, done teacher training, led at leadership seminars in Lagos. I know we have a huge Lagos teaching middle leaders seminar coming up in March, which is very exciting. And we're going to be hearing more about that over the next few months. And partnerships as well. There's tangible partnerships. I know we're talking to a school next week when we come over of hosting a sports tour. And I know one of the schools here will be one of the key hosts for sports tour of one of the leading schools in Lagos. So we're talking from a heart of British education, but also a heart of partnering with Nigerian schools, Nigerian parents, and really working together, because the next question really leads on very nicely to what we learn from Nigerian students and what we learn from Nigeria. So the next question, really, to go around the kind of fireside chat theme, is can you think of an example out of many of Nigerian students who thrived in your school, and how and why? So, Sarah, let's start with you in Truro High School for Girls, a student who's thrived from West Africa or Nigeria.
Yes, absolutely. So we have a strong tradition with West Africa, and we just love the values that those students bring to our schools. We love the way that they embrace opportunities. Their smiles are the thing that I always remember, and that I see every day as we have them with us. But if I give you an example, or which one, but a most recent leaver, Asmau from Abuja. And Asmau, she came because of our medic medic program. She said, I want to change the world. I want to be an oncologist. I'm going to find a cure for cancer. And she embraced our medic program that happens after school on a Wednesday, that we partner with all sorts of medical professionals to inspire the students. But on top of that, her heart was so obvious. She was welcoming to other students. When other students were having a difficult time, she'd be there to invite them into lunch. Those little acts of kindness that go all the way to making a big difference to somebody else's day. She also embraced opportunities. So she was in the dance show. We have a huge dance show every year in a big theatre called the Hall for Cornwall, and she relished that opportunity. And she also took part in sports like netball, which actually, speaking of Muslim students, she's one of our Muslim students, and was playing netball in her hijab and having a glorious time. But also she took on the challenge of the Duke of Edinburgh scheme, which has a service element, which has an expedition element, and it has learning new skills and that kind of growth mindset. And she was one of the students that, through some of the tough times in the expeditions as they're hiking along, she was one of the people that motivated and kept them going. And she went all the way up to gold. So gold was kayaking through Sweden this summer. And that grit and determination. So she was a role model in every way that you can imagine, has headed off to Exeter to a bright future there. But so she's one that we particularly relished. But we often have students from West Africa as part of our head girl team. The last two head girl teams have had West African students who have led the school with compassion and excellence. I noticed in the chat there's a question from Tommy about whether there are policies in place that can address issues around racism and microaggression. I would say you need to look for more than just a policy. So interrogate schools about how they engage with students. We all have policies, of course we do, but how do you live it? How do you make sure? For us, we talk to the students all the time. We have anonymous reporting systems. We interview the students, not interview, that sounds too formal, but we chat. I chat to children from different backgrounds. How is the experience for you? We actually do exit interviews as well, those that are leaving us, and say, how was it for you? What was it like? But it's constantly on our minds in schools, that idea of equality and driving equality. And I would say, ask any school how they live their policies and what their ethos is. And you'll find also schools be willing to connect you to students from Nigeria to ask them how their experience is. So we often set up chats between students who are thinking about coming with current students. So great question there, but I thought I'd just pick up on it. It seemed relevant at the time.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah, for that. And just to reinforce the point that the whole point of today's session is we love welcoming Nigerian students because they feel so comfortable and thrive in our environment. So, Dave, have you got an example of a student out of many current students or former students who thrived at Culford, and why?
But, I think the Nigerian pupils that we've welcomed to the school, I think it's their maturity of perspective that always sort of humbles me a bit, really. We had the head boy from Atlantic Hall came to Culford, a fantastic school just outside Lagos, and could have, I guess he probably would have been the head boy at Culford and taken on leadership roles. And while he was a fantastic sort of role model, he supported kids by being alongside them. One of my colleagues mentioned that, and he didn't actually go for that sort of formal position, because for him, because of the opportunities his parents had afforded him, he didn't want to distract himself from academically producing, getting the best grades he could. And it wasn't a sort of self-serving way he did that. He wanted to get the best grades he could, to get to the best university he could, to go back to Nigeria to serve his country in the way that he could. And I just remember being incredibly humbled by that. And it's not untypical. So, we're in relatively rural, sort of conservative England. And when you've got pupils that at 16, 17 years of age arrive at the school, and you see that the academic life they're in isn't the end, it's a means to an end, to go back to their countries, to have a positive influence, and whether it be in medicine, engineering, whatever it might be. As a grown man of aging years, I find it really humbling, and it makes me feel largely inadequate. And I think for our pupils to sort of live and work alongside it, they don't realise what they're learning, but it's an absolute inspiration. So there are specific examples, and I've cited one there, but actually it's watching the Nigerian kids with their global perspective, their sort of sense of identity to their country and what that drives in them. And our kids being privileged enough to work alongside that, I think has an indelible impact on them that they don't actually realise is taking place. And to be able to watch that and to see it is a really powerful thing.
And I think the parents online and the parents who send their children to the UK deserve a lot of credit for that. They come hugely prepared and hugely mature and confident, and are really a role model for a model student in the schools online. And thanks very much for that example, Dave. That's brilliant. Now, Tom, have you got? Let's change the question a little bit to come up with an answer to one that's just popped into the chat. How does your school prepare students for the world of work? We're talking about preparation for the next generation and values and all of those areas. What about practical things for the world of work? Guidance on university places, career guidance, those areas.
Thank you, Mark. I will just have to say, because I should have been at Chichester Cathedral this morning, our current head girl, Kiki, a Nigerian student, is being appointed as a youth racial justice ambassador by Bishop Will. And that is where we see the courageous advocacy again. I have to get that in there for the last question. Thank you for LagosMums. I'm glad I did too. Thank you, LagosMums, for that question. Well, I think in many ways what we do is to help students along and with their choices, the same as any other school. However, I think hopefully and other colleagues on the chat today would agree, in many ways, students are ahead of us in identifying these opportunities and being engaged in forums and in an online world that perhaps we are behind on. And I think that's okay to admit. So in many ways, as well as the historic and traditional support that they would have for UCAS applications or world of work, whether that be degree apprenticeships nowadays. So I think there's a greater expanse and plethora of opportunities out there. So one, it's about offering those opportunities. When we talked about the fit of school earlier with Gabby, it's the fit of perhaps future college, a future opportunity for that child is also really important. But I think more and more what we're doing and having to work with parents to understand too on a journey is we need to trust the young people. You know, that they are clicked into a world perhaps that we're not so familiar with. And actually it's about giving them those great opportunities, but also trusting them. And sometimes that can feel uncomfortable, but I think that's where the strength of a good school and a good boarding school comes in, where you have incredible partnerships and relationships with parents, and you can have those really honest conversations that are all in the good and for the best interest of that young person. So I think it's about trust and about good advice, good solid advice that has always been there, but trusting in the future and helping those young people also have a big input and say on their future.
That's a very profound and mature point to make, and it kind of chimes with me as a parent as well, because we have kind of pre-prepared pathways for our own children that they seem to have their own ideas and want to do their own thing. It's like, oh my goodness, and we just have to support them and let them do what they want to do, like my parents did for me, and they'll find the right pathway and find out where they're happiest along the route. So it's supporting and giving them guidance and framework and encouragement along the way. Guy, how do you prepare students for the world of work?
Well, I suppose almost everything that we've talked about is really preparing them for work, and it's more than preparing them for work, though. It's preparing them to be happy and successful members of society. I will pick up on something that Dave said about happiness. I don't actually believe that it's my staff's responsibility to make the children happy in the school. It's our responsibility to give them the tools to seek their own happiness. But within looking ahead in particular, again, coming back to the OECD framework and picking up on something there's a real strong theme in it of pupil agency. Tom talked about, getting them to make decisions and involving them in the debate. But pupil agency fundamentally within the context of the OECD framework is about giving young people the confidence to act rather than be acted upon. And I do think our young people, particularly in perhaps very traditional schooling systems, receive information and then, if they've got a chance, make a decision what to do with that information. Whereas we've got to make that decision-making imperative right at the beginning of the process, so that they have the confidence to act rather than be acted upon. And I think if we can give them that confidence, and coming back again to an OECD notion of competencies, the confidence to act, to develop their own agency, their own decision-making potential, that they can then transform their potential rather than receive necessarily a transfer of other people's potential. I know I'm going slightly off script here and so on and so forth, but I do believe that if we talk to our children in a slightly different way, we are preparing them better than telling them what they should be doing.
Brilliant. Now, Stephanie, we haven't heard from you on this, so well, I'd like to change the question slightly in terms of communication. One of the C's we've been hearing a lot about, and communication I'd like to explore is communication between the parent, the student, and the school while they're at boarding school, because it's obviously very important they don't lose touch. So, and then we've got a final word from Gareth.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. I think as my colleagues have just picked up on, fundamental to the development of our children is those relationships between school, children, and also parents, and that sort of key triangle and the way that we move around it. So for us, I mean, and as I am sure everybody who's at this fireside chat operates in a very similar vein, that the key touch points that are done throughout the year exist for any parent, that they are there whether the parent is sat next to you at the table or whether they are sat overseas like we are now on a Zoom call, and we're still offering that depth and thoughtfulness of the updates around the academic progress and also the character progress. I know that everybody will be sharing all their good news stories through their newsletters and exciting videos and photos that parents can constantly stay in touch with, which is the beauty, I think, of our digital age today. And really for us, I think in a boarding school, it's that regular personalised touch from our house parents and our house team that is so important. The recognition that I think in boarding, acting in loco parentis, you must maintain that. As a mother myself, I would want to know those little moments, the little joys, the little successes, the photograph of them with the cake on their birthday. All those things are so important. And I think that to celebrate the whole child as they move through that education and help parents feel like they are in touch with it.
Good. I like the mention of the birthday cake. That's very important in Nigerian culture. So don't forget the cake. That's important. So in 15, 20 seconds, Gareth, could you sum up why parents online today should come to the UK Boarding Schools Week exhibition at the Wee Baker by this coming Friday the 13th, Saturday the 14th, and Sunday the 15th? Why should they come and talk to schools about their children?
Mark, very, very easy that. Those people that are listening online already, you're already one step on the way to making great choices for education for your children, whether that's a choice that says they remain in Nigeria and in the great schools you have there, or whether you choose to come to the United Kingdom. But you're talking here to 6 of us. There will be more of us in the Week Baker, and you can have a broader range of opinion, a broader set of information, but also the chance to consolidate and understand whether what we've said here is truly representative of the sector. I challenge you to say it is. I say that we represent the best of British boarding school right here on the screen right now, and you should come and find out whether my challenge is right. Come and talk to us all. Come and find the best match for your child, and bring your children with you. Get them to come and see us, and get them to come and chat to us and find out whether what we've got is suitable for them. There are great children out there. Your great children are out there wanting great futures. This is a step, if you like, in ensuring that we can facilitate those great futures for them. Thank you. Look forward to meeting you and chatting.
Great. Thanks, everyone, for taking part. We learned a lot, and I look forward to watching the replay and writing up an article about it. So there's 22 top schools coming to our UK Boarding Schools exhibition. If you want to know more, go to markbrookseducation.com and register online. Thanks very much, and back to Stephanie and Yeti.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mark, and thank you, everybody who joined in today. That was a great conversation, and we're looking forward to seeing everybody in person next week in Lagos, the 13th, 14th, and 15th of October, to continue the conversation around choosing schools and just learning about education for the future. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, everybody.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yes. Thank you. That would, parents, it would be great to see you share some of the things you took away from there. One of the things that really struck and stuck, particularly for me, were the reinforcement of values. So while the schools say, okay, each of them have the values that they're running with to assure or reassure you as parents that, their school is one you want to consider. I also like the fact that when they were talking about the children showing up in the school saying, they want to do such and such so that they can go back to recreate, that also shows so that they can come back to Nigeria to be whatever it is, the person that wants to become an oncologist or the person that wants to bring engineering back, and all those things. The children are also showing an angle of the values as well that they brought from their home. So I guess it's also a reminder to us as parents that the kinds of values that we instill into our children are second to none, because that is what they would take to these respective schools that you may choose or want to take them to. And also when you're trying to pick a school from any of these, you can now find out where it aligns, where your values and the values of the schools align. So great conversation, fantastic conversation. Another meeting next week. And as many as can make it, please be there. Thank you very much to the Mark Brooks and the other speakers. I want to use this opportunity to appreciate again all our sponsors and all the partners thus far, and everyone that